you're taking questions right now, or if it came to my head. If I don't say it, it's been a long week and I'll forget. Could you talk a little bit to the cost difference between doing a natural building home versus some of our traditional materials?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. Boy, that's a big one.
Yeah,
so
I know.
We can get
in
back
one
to
sentence,
it.
don't you? Like?
Yeah, I can do it in one sentence.
Yeah.
You've probably heard me say it before.
Yeah.
Good, fast, cheap. Pick 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
So that works for so many things in the world, but natural building definitely works. So I've upgraded my thinking. Now I call it the golden triangle. Good, fast, cheap. And you get to put your dot on what your goals are anywhere in there. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be just 2. But yeah, good and fast is pretty easy to deliver, and it's going to cost a fortune because you're going to get a lot of really skilled people to do it. Fast and cheap, pretty easy. Nobody's really going to want to be there because it's not going to be that good. And good and cheap is not as doable, but it is somewhat doable, but you're doing all the labor yourself because the labor costs on natural building, a philosophical difference between conventional and natural construction is where things are manufactured. So in natural building, we take great, great pride in taking raw earth and materials and considering ourselves the producers of materials. And it's really putting it all into labor. So there's no factory producing something for you to just use in a repetitive, don't have to think about it kind of way. That doesn't happen. So we've got skilled labor making good decisions. That's going to change day to day based on humidity, based on temperature, based on what wall of the house you're working on. It's really quite meticulous decision making, but that makes it expensive. So there are so many other things that factor into the cost of a building, like lighting fixtures, or how wide the staircase is, or if there's solar panels on the roof, or like there's so many things. Like the actual, just a substitute in different materials, or straw bale walls instead of dense packed cellulose walls, it's usually kind of an incremental increase. But to like start at ground zero in the design and say we're doing a natural natural design build, your whole outlook is going to shift, and that can cost a lot more. Or if you're kind of like putting a bunch of your own labor in, it doesn't have to cost too much more. But it usually is a limiting factor because most people can't take 3 years off from work to build their own house, so they can hire people to do it in 7 months instead of 3 years. So it usually does factor in the cost.
Or 9 years, or 10.
No, nobody takes
it's
that long.
It's not done yet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Most take that long. Yeah.
Right.
The first house I ever worked on 13 years ago, they live in it, but it's not even done.
It's not done, yeah.
One of the ones I worked on, a straw clay house, I worked on in 2006. Anyone who goes to permaculture day next weekend will get to see Ellen and Marty's house. And they're like 11 years in, 10 years in, and not done.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But it's not.
Yeah.
So, you had a question?
So since I've seen where the life cycle cost of a lot of that stuff ends up being cheaper, maintenance and such.
Yeah.
Is that your experience that, like, big picture, it ends up being either a wash or a positive?
Absolutely. That's a great point. So, you look at a house that's, say, going to cost $250,000 to build, and you take out a loan. Well, there's all these different variables, but if you take out a loan and you're paying it back over 30 years, you're paying like $420,000, whatever it is, to do that. The only benefit is, hopefully, if you hire people to do it, it gets done quick and it's done. But when you inject your own labor and experiences into the house, first of all, a lot of what goes on in the natural design build is not going to be quantifiable by dollars. So just bare bones right across the board. That is for real. But, we still got to work with banks and, neighbors who come over and say, oh, I want to do this. How much does it cost? You got to reduce everything down to dollars to have conversations in the masses. Yeah, a lot of times to do a house that's passively heated, meaning it's heated pretty predominantly by natural cycles of the sun and only minimal inputs in firewood or whatever other kind of fuel that you choose to use. You start looking at the construction cost versus operating cost. So if you build something for $250,000 and put $300 a month into full operation between electricity and or everything, I'm talking whole lifestyle, So you've got a garden out, a great garden or farm there as well. So like $300 a month for groceries, electricity, all your heating. Like $300 is not that much for a full lifestyle view. Then it's great. But if you could build for $250,000 and a pretty nice house that looks nice with $2,000 chandeliers instead of $2,000 worth of air sealing details to make it work better as a living creature of like your third skin, which is what a house should be. Then you're kind of maybe $700, $800 a month in buying groceries. So there's straight up bare bones cost of construction, and then like what lifestyle you've built to support it. Like your house needs to be part of your lifestyle. If we had more time today, I have an exercise that I love doing, asking people to design an outdoor kitchen. And there's all these questions you can kind of like go through, because that's one of the most fun things to design. It's one of the hardest and most fun. So we'll do outdoor kitchen design a lot. Like an hour exercise, if I ask you a bunch of very specific questions on what your lifestyle is and how to design to your lifestyle instead of design 14 by 20, something. So it can be really fun. So anyway, yeah, construction costs versus like how much you're going to spend in your life over 30 years.